Hello, Natalie Tarry here from Natematics. I'm here to take you through how to solve a quadratic equation. This is actually from the AQA 2018 paper from autumn, and it's paper 1 and it's higher level, in case I didn't just already mention that, and it's question number 12. Now, one of these is very much like it's a straightforward method. So here's a question. The method to solve it is actually pretty much the same regardless of what they look like. There's a certain rule you need to follow. So what I'm going to do is go through that rule just in case you weren't really sure how to do it. Okay, so as always, so we've got a quadratic equation. How do we know it's a quadratic equation? Well, you've got a letter, which is to the highest power of that letter is a square, so it's to the power of 2. You've also got a single x in there, and you've got a number. Now, if you can recognize that pattern, especially when you're doing higher level as well, because if you can get something into the form like this, you can solve some of the most complicated equations. If you can get them into the form of a quadratic, you then manipulate it in the way that I'm going to be doing right now. This is also looked at for foundation as well. But foundation in terms of AQA, the England exam boards, it don't pretty much, cannot remember if it does actually come up at foundation level for WJEC, where the highest grade is a D. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be in there, to be honest. It's probably more intermediate. Anyway, let's get on with this one, because guess what? I'm having my tea in a minute, so I've got to be quick, keep this quick. So when we solve a quadratic equation, we need to remember what's the first thing we need to do. Well, you want to make sure it looks in the form that it is, so which it already is. So you've got a squared term, you've got a single term, and then you've got a number. There are some other ones which I'll talk about another time, but that's another thing, difference between two squares, remember them. So we factorize first. What does factorize mean? Okay, I'm going to give you a nice little rule. So you will probably recognize two brackets. So you've got x plus or minus something, and then you've got another brackets with x in, plus or minus something equals 0. So that's what we're aiming for. So now one thing I will say is for those who are doing higher level, you will have examples where you might have the coefficient in front of the x squared is bigger than 1. We have a slightly different rule for that as well. So this is only for when we have a single coefficient for the x squared, i.e. it's just 1 x squared. Okay, so basically what we're looking for is what is here. So I'm going to call it a green circle, try and keep it simple. So the green circle added to whatever's underneath the orange circle must add to give whatever is in front of the x term, which is here -1, because it's minus. We don't show a 1 in algebra. Okay, so there's lots of numbers that could follow that, isn't there? There's lots of things that could fit into that. We also have another criteria, and that is that whatever is where the green circle is, multiplied by whatever is underneath the orange circle, that must multiply to the number term, the -12. Okay, so where are we going to start? Well, I call it my natty tip, Natematics, or Natalie even. Look at the factors of 12 first, because actually the numbers that multiply together to give -12 are much fewer than the numbers that add to give -1. So I always suggest do this one first, the multiplying. So what two numbers can multiply together to give -12? You may have worked it out already, in which case that's fine. I am going to take you through assuming that you weren't really sure where to start with this. So -1 times +12. Or we can have, because you've got a -12, so think what signs must those two numbers have? Must they be the same or must they be different? So think if it's a negative number, multiplying two signs together. I'm talking about signs in terms of it's a minus or it's a plus. Okay. So we've got 2 and 6. So you can have -2 + 6 or +2 - 6. And then we've got 3 and 4. So -3 + 4 +4 + 3 - 4. You can read them there. Okay, That's it. Those are our factor pairs for minus 12. So now we need to pick which one of these 6 actually adds together to give the minus 1, which is again the coefficient in front of the single x. So if we look, we know it's going to be the 3 and the 4, because the difference between them is 1, isn't it? So which one of these is it going to be? So we add together to give minus 1. Well, we can see just by adding those 2 together, we get minus 1. If we add those 2 together, we get plus 1. So always tie up, remember that any term is negative. So therefore, they've got to be 1 positive, 1 negative. And then the way round we do it depends on what this middle one is doing. Okay, so we know that we're going to have x plus 3 and x minus 4 in our brackets. That's the first bit done. Now remember, with algebra, it's what we're saying is it's this some number plus 3 multiplied by some number minus 4. And when we do that, we get an answer of 0. So we've got to work out what those numbers mean, what they are. Is there only going to be one solution? Is there only one value of x that can make this happen? Well, you've got 2 things multiplied together. So either you've got to think, what makes something 0 when you multiply it against with something? Well, anything times 0 is 0. So it doesn't matter what it is. You can have 6 trillion, multiply it by 0, you've got 0. So x plus 3 times x minus 4 equals 0. So we're going to solve that. So either this is equal to 0 or this is equal to 0. So that's the only way we can make this work. One of them is 0. So let's look at this first one. Either x plus 3 equals 0. Well, what value of x would make, and I'm just going to go back a step, what value of x would make this 0? So some number, and I always really suggest this to people who struggle a bit with algebra, that x is representing a number. So rather than saying x plus 3 equals 0, think of it as there's some number I don't know, but when I add 3 to it, I get 0. So, okay, that's got to be minus 3. And then this one, do exactly the same again. So there's some number that when I subtract 4, I get 0. Well, that's got to be plus 4. So x is equal to minus 3 or plus 4. That is your answer. Now, one thing I am going to just say, just add some to this now, because I know it's nearly my dinner time and we've nearly finished anyway, is how can we check that this is correct? Because quite often we can rush through things in an exam or, maybe not rush through it, and we want to make sure it's right. So what can we do to check that it's correct? I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to add it in. I want you to tell me in the comments, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, I want you to put in the comments, how would we check that this solution is correct? Right, thank you very much for watching and keep an eye out for lots more solutions like this. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.